Okay, for this final project in multimedia design, you're going to design a poster or flyer using Adobe InDesign. This is what the Adobe InDesign icon looks like. Yours may be in a folder over here on the right-hand side of your computer called Applications. It'll have a black line across the top of the folder. The first time you go into Adobe InDesign, this should look familiar because this is what Adobe Illustrator opens up, only it's labeled slightly different. But before I create a document, I'm going to go over here into InDesign, go to Preferences, and go to Units and Increments. The reason you want to do this first is so that from now on, every time I open up a document, instead of the rulers being in picas, they'll be in inches. So I'm going to set both the horizontal and the vertical to inches, and then click OK. Now when I create a new document, my letter size will be an 8.5 by 11. These are the margins down here. You'll see that when it opens up. I'm going to click OK. And on this particular one, we're not going to have a bleed. So this actually shows my margin, half-inch margin all the way around. If we wanted to set a bleed, we could do that later. But for this particular one, we're not going to do it because when we print these out, we're not going to be able to bleed them anyway. I'm going to use a slogan that I saw one of my students found. Why did the chicken cross the road? Who cares? Buy a yearbook. I've already saved a couple of graphics. Just in case I can't find them, I'm going to type in rooster, silhouette, and then I'm going to choose this one because it's large. Notice that it's 1000 by 974 pixels. And that's a nice image. So I'm going to say View Image. I'm going to right mouse click on this and save Image As. I'm going to click on Desktop, whichever period you're in, period 2 or period 5. And I've got a folder called Propaganda Poster Examples. Inside that, I've got one called Propaganda Poster Final. And I should also have a research folder in here. So since I don't, I'm going to put research and create and save the file there. Again, I'm holding my thumb on the Command key, tapping the Tab key, and tapping over to Adobe InDesign. The way that InDesign works that's differently than Adobe Illustrator is you have to actually click Text Tools and then click and drag rectangles and then type inside those rectangles. So at the top I'm going to put, why did the chicken cross the road? Then I'm going to select all the text. Up here it tells me it's in Minion Pro 12 point. If I click here I can go to 72 point. And that filled up the page, or that filled up the box. Notice down here on the right hand side, see this little plus? That means there's more text in here than fit in that particular box. So in order to enlarge the box, I'm going to click on the selection tool and just pull this down. If I double click here, it should change to the text tool. So I can put in a question mark. To change the font, it's very similar to Adobe Illustrator. You just select the text, go up here where it says the name of the font, and this gives you a little preview of what the fonts look like. I'm going to choose a skinny one, but also that's bold. One of my favorite ones is called Impact. That's a nice bold headline. And then I'm going to center the text, or center stack the text like this. This is a very simple layout for now. You can move the box around by clicking the selection tool and just moving the box around. In order to add graphics, you go up to File, Place, and then you go find your graphic. So you're going to navigate through this. Remember, I had it on my desktop. I put it in my Period 2 MMD folder. It's in my Propaganda folder. And I put it in my Research folder. I'm going to click it and then click Open. Notice how it doesn't place it automatically, but it has this box that's attached to your cursor. Once I click this, it will place the image wherever I tell it to place. I'm holding the Command key down and hitting minus so that I can see how big the image is. And then I'm going to click and drag the rooster up over the center of the page. Notice how when I move my cursor over this double circle, changes to a hand. That allows me to move the image inside the box that it was placed in. Since I want this to be reduced down to fit on the page, I'm going to move the cursor down to the lower right corner, click and drag. Notice how it's dragging the box but not the image. I hit Command Z just now. In order to reduce the size of the image at the same time, you want to hold the Command, the Option, and the Shift keys down, and then click and drag. Notice how the rectangle is reducing, but it's also reducing the image inside. So I'm going to place this like this. Hit Command 0 to get it in the full page. And then since this doesn't fit just right, I'm going to move the rooster over here to the right-hand side. Then I'm going to go back to left-hand stack or left-hand justified so that the type fits more like this. Now I can move the rooster up a little bit, and again holding the Command, Option, and Shift keys down, I'm going to click and drag and make the rooster bigger to fill the page. You can play around with the size and so forth, but that's the quick way or the keyboard shortcut way to reduce and enlarge images. So here's my riddle. I want to copy this entire box. So I'm going to copy it by hitting Command C and paste it by hitting Command V. And then I'm going to triple click on the text and change it to "Who cares? ... Buy a yearbook." And I'm going to click again on the selection tool and move this text down to the bottom of the screen. So that surprisingly actually works for a very simple layout. It's very bold and it actually works. So the only other thing I'm going to put in here is I'm going to select another text box and I'm going to put a little box over here that says where to buy it. Purchase your yearbook at the finance office. And then again, I'm going to center stack this text. The difference between these two boxes, these two arrows, is very similar. It works very similar to Adobe Illustrator. I'm just reducing the rectangle that the text is in. And for a very simple poster, I'm going to call this done. I'm going to do File, Save As, and remember to use the same naming conventions and put it in the same folder. So I'm going to go back to Desktop, Period 2, Propaganda Poster. In this case, I'm going to put in Propaganda Poster Final, and I'm going to call it Propaganda Poster, or you can just call it Propaganda, underscore, first initial last name, underscore, in this case, P2, and just save it. The last thing I'm going to do on this is I'm going to save it also as a PDF so that it can be easily printed. Adobe InDesign does this slightly differently than Adobe Illustrator. You don't just do a save as. You go down to Export, and then down here at the bottom you can see it says Format, Adobe PDF Print. And that is the default, so it should already be on there. So I'm just going to save it here. And then I'm going to click Export. Now it's opening up Adobe Acrobat so that you can see it. I'm hitting Command 0. And there's my final poster. I'm going to probably add a few things in here. Maybe I'll put the CPMA logo here. But you may see posters like this around campus very soon, because I think I'm going to supply this one to print, at least initially for this week, until you get your posters done.